Hey y'all, it's day 24. I don't think you'll notice it. Maybe, we'll see. But I've gone about recording this in a different method today just to shake up my creative process a little bit. And because I'm really tired and I just didn't want to do all that much, like, off and on. um, so what are we gonna talk about? As usual, I'm tired. I've been up since 3 a.m. and I had a lot of work to do. I was helping out my grandparents, and I started a new book. I'm reading The Green Book by Al Gaddafi, and so far I've read about the purpose or the instrument of government, like what its purpose is, parliaments, the party, and class. And I've been doing a lot of reflecting about it in relation to self determination, freedom, and care. These are just wonderful topics, aren't they? But there's a very deep intersectionality between all of politics and personal freedoms. Well, of course they're intertwined. Isn't that like what we fight for? I mean, yeah. So ultimately, in the Green Book so far, Al Gaddafi is just arguing for the fact that democracy, as we've come to understand it, is not a democracy. It's a complete farce of that, and is actually just a dictatorship with a little extra steps to make the people feel like they have more say than they really do. So ultimately, what I have just been thinking about is the failures of the state to care for individuals, the failure of the state to embolden individuals' personal freedoms, and the mechanisms by which power is shifted from the self into the hands of another, so that you do not have full control over the methods by which you exercise your life. Aren't these such fun topics? But yeah. So today I was in and out of Social Security and filling out paperwork for my grandparents, right? And what I was really just thinking about was like, okay, this is a great means to ensure that these people can get the economic support that they need. But what is ultimately needed is the physical support above all else, right? The community, right? Because that is what has been stripped away from us ultimately. And when I'm thinking about this, what is going through my mind actually is how the reason that we're in this predicament of lacking power over our own lives is because the those that yearn for power in a way that it takes away from others, so that they can not only exercise their own power but exercise an excess of it so that they can have control, right? That's what all of history, or all of known history, has been about under patriarchal systems, right? These people that want more power and will do anything to attain it under violent means, right? And that is where the state is born. It is a class of individuals that have undergone the necessary measures to enact violence so that they can carve out their territory, right? Because the state is the unification and the like group unification for where we say that this group is allowed to commit violence on us and upon others, right? But they're consistently is a certain class or groups of people that the state does not enact equal violence to. And they will remain unnamed for this part. But not just because like I don't want to say it, but literally just because like this is such a dense conversation, and like I'm just spitballing this. I'm tired, and we don't want to get on like a trillion things, right? But ultimately, recognizing that through state mechanisms, that is how power is shifted away from the people into the hands of another through violence and the threat of it. So, when we were in the era of kings and queens and overt monarchies, it was the royalty that had the sanctioned violent power of the state at their disposal. And we shifted away from this into a more, quote, democratic means of having the people's voices be heard for their fair share. And with this came the parliament system so that swaths of people could be represented by one person so that their voices and problems and desires could be heard adequately by the state so that they could get the change that they wanted for their community. But there was an issue. When these groups of individuals all came up to meet from the parliament, they became their own group, and they had the power of the people. The power of the people had shifted from from the immediate translation from the people to the monarch to the people to the representative, from the representative to the head of the state and any intermediaries between there. It dilutes the power slowly but surely. And with this parliament system came parties as well, different subsections of what the people desired out from the state so that they could enact the changes that they needed. But each of these parties came at a cost. They could never fully represent what anybody wanted in the state. Only a certain percentage, never the full whole. And according to Gaddafi, that is the issue. That is where we see the obfuscation of, quote, democracy. That is where it leads itself into dictatorship. Because no matter what the party is, it will be an enemy of some part of the people. And because of that, it will be coaxing someone away from excelling in their self-determination and in their freedom. So, how do we solve this? I gotta finish the book, but just from like what I'm understanding about it, a complete shift in the ways that we participate with each other politically and in the economy needs to be undertaken so that we can really live a life in which we excel as the way we are as individuals, and so that we can excel in community, knowing that our needs are met for survival, so that we can actually thrive beyond that and live. No longer struggling for scraps, but really thriving, making the most out of what life can be. Because currently, success can only be fully determined based off of some means of exploitation. And although the way that the economy has shifted with the internet, there's more money being thrown around to let people live lavish lives without such overt exploitation, but the shackles of this old world still hinders us all from being able to express ourselves to the fullest in the inherent wealth that the world has to offer every individual that lives on it. I'm talking. So, how do we really shift? I believe that this first shift must occur via creative expression, right? Why am I so big on creative expression? Why am I always talking about how creative expression is the first basis by which you will be free? Because it is the first basis by which you are birthing something for yourself. It is the first step of creation that exists in harmony with the world around you, not one of inherent destruction, but one that adds to the forest of life. Whether you are in a concrete jungle or one of nature, whatever you create will add to the world around you in a manner that only adds to it. You let yourself be known in a way that does not take. And that is what is missing. But how can our creative expression help another? How can our creative expression ensure that I'm not going hungry? Well, our creative expression just doesn't lie in art. It lies in engineering. It lies in every facet of existence. Even the camera I'm recording this on, that is creative expression. The same way that artists will say everything is art, everything is creative expression, everything is expression, period. It is the intent behind that expression, right? You know, another thought I was having was labors that serve to support the function of society should be mandatory service for like 4 years by every citizen. Like real shit, right? People should be like, I would do it 1,000%. Garbage men, sewage, it's like sewage workers, plumbers, building houses, being a farmer, water uh, cleaning. I'm forgetting the proper oh my god, I'm forgetting the proper words for it. But these types of mechanisms to genuinely help people is what will propel us forward beyond being stuck in this state of survival where we are forever being exploited just to be given scraps to survive in a system that wasn't built for us. We have the ability to make something better, but we just have to get to know each other and suffer the humility of being awkward and trying to know your neighbor. And with how Trump is fucking up this country, it feels so hard to have hope. But that's why it's important to fight for it. Know your neighbor. Know yourself. Learn the ways in which you can help and care for each other beyond the state. Because the state authorities have never existed to serve the people ultimately. Only to, at most, let us live comfortably until they can further their exploitation. And with how technology has evolved, we're once again at a precipice, and a choice must be made on how we're going to live life. We either capitulate to the violent forces before us, or we fight for a better tomorrow. And that means in every manner, in ways of thought, in ways of expression, in ways of connection. It isn't all violence, but that's the thing that most people will hear. It starts with caring before you raise a fist. Anyways, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.